Hello and welcome everybody! On this very special episode of Dark Souls 2, we are going to get covered in a very modest spattering of blood. Before we get to business, I'm here to show off one of the neat gifts that From Software has left us. If you open this chest in Majula, or if you did open this chest in Majula, it's a little late now I'm afraid, you get a bunch of bonus weapons. Now, I won't actually use these weapons during this playthrough, but I do want to pick them up because, limited time opportunity. Now, they are functionally identical to the normal weapons of that variety. However, they're skinned a little bit differently. This longsword, for instance, is sort of a turquoise blue. This great club is, much like we will soon be, spattered in blood. Very menacing. And if I can find the last two, here we go. This black steel katana is actually a white steel katana. Aren't we cool? And finally, when I properly sort through all my curved swords and junk, we get a Murakumo, which is a sort of dark bluish blackish color. Nothing particularly game-changing in this chest, but it's just a little bonus and you do get them for free. However, now is the time of action. Last time we joined the Brotherhood of Blood. This is a PvP-oriented covenant, and in it, your primary objective, well, it's not actually your primary objective, but what should be your primary objective is to invade other players' worlds with cracked red-eye orbs. Now, to further facilitate this goal, we are going to go to one of the locations that is marked in orange on the travel menu. These locations indicate that these are where you have the easiest time encountering other players. It's a very handy addition. However, I don't really think that we are quite dressed properly for the part of menacing invader. So let's do a little bit of switching around. Better. Kinda dorky. Nah. Ooh, this has a cape. Alright, let's go with the Drangleic Mail. The Royal Soldier Helm is pretty imposing. And nobody really cares about the legs. You can barely see them. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is nullify the human effigies effect. I didn't actually burn one, but a newish feature is that when you beat a boss of an area, they will automatically get a human effigy effect and block player interaction. Why, I don't really know, but, whatever. Fortunately, it doesn't take us long to get a bite. Sometimes you can sit there for about 10 minutes spamming red-eye orbs and getting could not find world to invade. So as an invader, there are a couple things you want to be on the lookout for. The first one is environmental cues. As we could see, the host of this world had not actually knocked over the tree stump shortcut, so we have a better idea of where he might be. The next thing you want to look out for is enemy placement. All of these enemies in that house have been more or less undisturbed, so I'm pretty sure that our friend has not been up here yet. Sometimes the players you invade will try to be elusive. It makes sense, to be honest. But if they do make you suss them out, it's important to know the basics of hunting for player hosts. Fighting them is pretty much the same as always. This guy appears to have a magic-centric build. If he has enough faith to use Lightning Spear and wear those clothes, then his spells are probably pretty powerful if we get hit by them. I'm not really sure what he's trying to do here. I think he might be trying to get a clear shot with Fireball? The nice thing about the spear is that it's pretty easy to hit players that are rolling away from you. Because it comes out so quickly and has such good reach, there's a good chance that it'll get hit right as they're going into the roll. Now, that fire longsword of his is a problem because it's eating through our shield block. Meanwhile, our completely run-of-the-mill spear does not do much of anything against his Drang-like shield. However, he leaves himself quite open there, and now we're on even footing. The spear is a very effective weapon at punishing reckless moves. He gave us a pretty good fight, so let's give him a bow. And he was right by the bonfire, so he didn't really lose anything from that. That's one successful invasion. Our reward is a token of spite. And I decide before we move on to the next one, I'm going to rearrange my hotbar a little bit. I briefly consider a corrosive urn, but I'm not evil. Silver talismans, however, are fair game. Speaking of talismans, Lloyd's talismans will also be helpful here because they block Estus healing. Looking through my collection of rings, I'm trying to figure out which ones to excise. Now, provided that you invade nearby a spawn point, there is really no risk of invasion because your souls will simply spawn right next to you if you die, and you won't lose your human form. So the Ring of Life Protection is not useful at all, so let's switch to the old Leo ring. Now, you can also sort of tell where the player is depending on where in the map you spawn. It will usually try to put you in a fairly reasonable vicinity of where the host might be. Of course, it's not perfect, but... Now, it looks like this guy has progressed quite far in the copse, because he's lowered this bridge. There are no enemies of note around here. And this is sort of where you can run into trouble as an invader, because this is a pretty big zone, and there's only so many tells. Since that guy is still alive, then he probably hasn't progressed towards the boss. So we're pretty safe in going back across the bridge, confident that he won't give us the slip. I sort of make an educated guess that he's over here. And I am rewarded by doing no work at all. I mean, I still get credit for that, even though I didn't touch the guy. my thunder sort of got stolen by that undead torturer. I'm a little upset about that. Alright, let's try again and hope for a real fight this time. The enigmatically named M probably poses the greatest challenge so far in actually finding the guy. Now, we know that he can't be over here. And we sort of saw a flash of his health bar over in that direction. So I decided to be cunning and lay a trap for him. Because he's got to come this way eventually, right? Right? Now, unfortunately, the Silver Talisman gave us possibly the worst camouflage imaginable for this area. So I basically just decided to hang out in the bonfire room and hope he doesn't notice that there's not supposed to be a pot here. Such is the nature of silver talismans. Now, of course, I'm not entirely very patient, so I decide to go searching for him in pot form. He hasn't been here. It's entirely possible that he is back by the first bonfire, like the first invadee was. This seems likely because that guy is still alive. But that guy is not. So he has come this way. It's very mysterious. At this point, I figured that maybe he's trying to do what I'm doing and hiding camouflaged as some sort of environmental object. I make one more sweep of the house and don't find anything. So I decided it's time to change my strategy a little bit. As fun as it is just sort of roaming around as a piece of furniture, it's not actually going to do me much good. First, I decide to check up here in case he's hiding above me. No such luck. I figured that it would be wise to check over here again to make sure that he didn't give me the slip while I was searching for him. But since the enemies are largely untouched, I don't think that he went that way. So I guess it's time to just start breaking things and hope that one of the things I break is the guy. Now, it is in here that I hear the telltale noise of a secret door opening. If he was trying to hide, he must have run out of patience. Now, I make a bit of a blunder here. I see that the elevator is still there, so I figure he must be hiding elsewhere in this room. But I forgot that when you take that elevator up, another one comes back down. So it takes me a moment to realize this, but once I do, I make a beeline for the elevator. This will always remain a really good idea that you should do at all times. There's not really much to do at this point but follow the only path that he could have taken, and hope we haven't lost too much time. I think that he might have taken to leaving enemies alive to throw us off the trail a little bit. Or maybe he just didn't notice that those two were following him. Finally. Normally I like to fight fair, but he gave me such a runaround, I'm completely out of patience. Well, that was pretty lucrative. We got 3 tokens of spite from that. However, we cannot use the bonfire. Why might that be? Aha! It seems that karma has caught up with us. We ourselves are invaded by a dark spirit, and now we must fend him off. This guy, however, is quite a bit more well-equipped than the people that we were preying on. He is also magic. And I'm also really clumsy. So that is more or less my punishment for invading the innocent. Rest in peace, me. As always, lag can make these bouts kind of unpredictable. Now, invasions is only one aspect of the Brotherhood of Blood. Let's go investigate another one. Now, over here by Gren are these 3 statues. If we have a token of spite in our possession, much like we could at the Cathedral of Blue, we can pray at one of these statues and be matched with a duelist. Now, perplexingly, the token of spite is not consumed when you go into a duel here, like it is with the token of fidelity in the Blue Sentinels. So you can fight pretty much to your heart's content forever here. Unlike at the Cathedral of Blue, where you simply need to go out and get more tokens of fidelity from time to time. It's a really weird design decision, if you ask me. Our opponent is trying to use the high ground to his advantage. However, without a ranged weapon of some sort, it's kind of meaningless. How the tables have turned. I'm not quite sure why he only waited until then to start using the throwing knives, but whatever. Now, I did have a favorable tactical position there, but as has been aptly demonstrated, I am very impatient. Using the jump attack as freely as he is not a good idea. It can close the distance very well, but it leaves you wide open. The great club that he's using in general is a sort of so-so PvP weapon. It's certainly very powerful, but it's also extremely slow. If you want to use a super heavy weapon against other players, a greatsword is probably the better choice. They tend to have better mechanisms of covering their weak spots and a much wider range of fire, as it were. Queue times for the arena are sort of hit or miss. I've had sessions where I get bites pretty much immediately, and sessions where I wait for 5 minutes in between each one. Now, the quickness with which this match was acquired is probably because we end up facing the same guy. The overhanded heavy attack in particular is not particularly useful for PvP. This guy is also slightly magic. Combustion tends to have too short of a range to really be useful in these kinds of fights. By the time it goes off, he'll probably have rolled away. Throwing daggers, however, are quite powerful. They don't do a lot of damage, but they're unexpected and they travel quickly. He switches to some kind of katana here. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. It's hard to tell when everything's all dark and red. Katanas are pretty good, I guess. I'm not a huge fan. At any rate, this should probably be good enough for one video. Hopefully that has whet your appetite for Carnage a little bit. And if not, there's plenty of other PvP and co-op covenants that you can join in this game. So don't feel like you need to join this one. I just thought I'd have a little bit of fun. Until next time, I'll see you later.